Make no mistake about it, Pammy and I did not skip our way through this journey. There were, are, and continue to be moments of sincere, gut-wrenching, unimaginable pain. But sitting right next to that pain is a tremendous feeling of purpose, a tremendous feeling of inspiration, powered by a tremendous little girl.
Welcome to Flip Your Script, the podcast about life's critical turning points and how people find the inspiration and motivation to move forward and rewrite their unique stories. Produced by Media Minefield, the show is hosted by Christy Peel, who flipped her script from an Emmy-winning journalist to a successful entrepreneur and speaker.
Scott Kramer is our guest today, and he's going to share a story that anyone who's a parent would say is the worst thing they could imagine. But I encourage you to listen to the hope and the joy as Scott talks about how he and his wife Pammy turned tragedy into a calling to help others. In April 2017, Scott's 2-year-old daughter Maddie was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. She passed away in January 2018, but that is certainly not the end of Maddie's story. Scott is joining us from Chicago, and Scott, it's wonderful to talk with you. Thank you for being willing to share your story.
Oh, thank you for chatting. It's a pleasure to be with you, Christy.
And I want to be really transparent. We've met several times. I consider you a friend. We've gotten together, and you have hired Media Minefield, and we're helping you get the story out. So I want to be transparent about that. This is not part of what we're doing for you, but I just don't want there to be any confusion about our relationship. So I just want to get that out of the way before we get going.
Perfect. Yeah, you and your team are an amazing blessing in our lives and in the lives of the people who we help. So thank you for continuing to help share our story and Maddie's impact on the world.
It's a joy. I mean, it really is such a pleasure to see you walk through this, because when you think about your story and how difficult it must be for you to talk about it, and yet you're willing to do it with such transparency for the purpose of furthering Maddie's story, helping other people, and being a blessing to other families. So I'm excited for people to hear your heart and to hear more about how you're keeping Maddie's story alive throughout our conversation today. I want to start with you telling me about Maddie.
That is not the hard part. That's the fun part. Maddie was, and albeit in a different way, continues to be amazing. So Maddie came out of the womb about 10 years older than she really was. She was born on June 26th of 2014 and very quickly developed into just one of those smiley, happy, like everything you think about a little girl as they move into toddlerhood. She loved Disney. She loved singing. She loved princesses, and You could not catch her without her having a Sophia or Cinderella dress, singing Frozen songs. She was just truly a bundle of joy, and with the vocabulary and the mind of probably a 7 to 10-year-old by the time she hit 2.5. She was just a joy and never, ever, ever stopped moving. I think if I have probably one story to visualize Maddie, picture us, we are in a baby class at somewhere around 18 months old. And all of the kids are patiently sitting on their mom or dad's lap around in a circle as the teacher sings some baby songs. And there is one child running around in a circle around the circle, screaming the song that is being sung. That was Maddie. She did not like to slow down very much. And it was amazing getting to run and dance with her.
And watching her go through cancer, as a child, the diagnosis, you can't understand all that's happening and all that's being done to you with physicians and all of that. And yet she didn't lose the spunk.
No, it's watching Maddie endure a cancer diagnosis was and will forever be the most truly inspiring and incredible thing that I ever see in my life. To the point where I talk a lot about when you think about enduring trauma or tragedy, you like to believe that we as adults are somehow well equipped, right? We're older, we're stronger, we're more mature, we can handle this. It's the exact opposite. And what made Maddie so amazing, and the lesson that she's gifted us, is that Maddie and kids, especially that toddler age, they are inherently present. Inherently present. You know, you think about what the world is going through right now. What are we doing as adults? We're thinking about what's going on outside of our walls. We're thinking about what tomorrow might be, what next week might bring, what last month brought. Kids are a lot simpler. When they feel good, they play and they sing and they run. And when they don't, and they snap out of it in a heartbeat, because their mind, which might be our greatest gift as adults, is also our greatest weakness in the face of trauma. And so Maddie, although her life was literally flipped upside down, I mean, to the point where, as you mentioned in your intro, Maddie was diagnosed at 2.5, and went from that happy, healthy, running, jumping little girl to, in a heartbeat, we show up in an emergency room thinking that she has a cold, and some residual pain in her neck, only to see her grow paralyzed on the left side of her body and watch her crumble on a ER triage scale, and for a neurosurgeon to come find us somewhere around midnight that evening, so less than 12 hours from happy until midnight, finding a tumor covering 4 levels of her spinal cord. Didn't know that night whether Maddie would survive the surgery. If she did survive, did not know whether she would walk again or talk again, or who and what she might be when she came out of that surgery. And by some miracle, and what I will say with joy and love, was the first of many, she not only survived, but within 2 weeks was back to that running, jumping, dancing self. And even though as her treatment journey continued, and what would ultimately be a 52-week chemotherapy protocol began that saw her lose everything that we might know to be normal in life: ability to go to school, ability to have hair, ability to be wearing clothes instead of a hospital gown. She kept playing and kept dancing, and slowly converted a hospital room into a playroom. And with every bit of that was the strength, both that strength and innocence that comes with toddlerhood, and her truly just incredible personality.
So her life flipped upside down in those first 12 hours, as did yours. And to watch, oftentimes, as a parent, it's like, oh, I'd rather be the one enduring that than watching it. You take whatever pain for your children. How did you and Pammy keep it, for lack of a better word, together to give Maddie some strength? Or did she give you the strength the whole time?
I think that thought about wanting to take it away and easier to endure than to watch is 150% spot on. As much as I can talk about this now and formulate the words, that was not the case on April 21st. When we got that MRI back, your life is shattered at that moment. I mean, there are those pockets in life where your mind doesn't fully go back to, and that's certainly one of them for us. There aren't words that can describe the feeling of the most precious thing in your world in a moment's notice being ripped away from you. She was Maddie was our first daughter that embraced and symbolized and represented everything that is good about the world. And like that feeling like she might not make it through the night, let alone what life holds for you. And however, as much as you are frozen and broken, as a parent that you have a higher obligation. And our obligation was to be there for her, because if we were broken, how could she still be her? And so we made a commitment from the moment she came out of that surgery, that we were going to do everything that we could to just keep Maddie as Maddie was the way that we put it. And so, does that mean that we didn't cry at every waking moment that we made it into the shower or into a quiet room when the day of trying to put on joy was over? That was the windows into the light and the dark. But the light was so amazing, and being able to be there for her and be her strength. But that got us 50% there, because the rest of it was that little girl taking it, carrying it, and running with it. Because as she continued to move through, as you saw her go from paralysis to dancing, very quickly, that sort of intensity of the trauma moment of April 21st of diagnosis turned into just amazement, because it's hard to feel down when you see someone with an IV pole hooked up to them delivering some of the harshest medications that are available to adults, and yet dancing around in her hospital room like that she's in the middle of the dance floor. And so she gave us strength throughout, and continues that to this day.
And you've so graciously opened up Maddie's story, life, and there's video out there of her. Dancing While Cancering is the nonprofit you started, which I want to talk about. Good Morning America had, Maddie's story. We'll put a link to that on flipyourscriptpodcast.com so people can see that, and you have it on your social media channels. And you didn't have to share Maddie with the world. You could have kept her for yourself, and yet you've shared some, family videos and pictures, and you talk about her. How do you have the strength for that? And when did you make the decision that, this Maddie wasn't just for us? Maddie is to help others.
As with so much of Maddie's life, things happen just quickly and on the strength of her inspiration. And so Maddie passed on January 4th of 2018, as you mentioned, and I can still see sitting in the hospital room outside for this little girl who Disney played a big role in carrying her through her journey. We were in a hospital room where right outside of her doors was a giant life-size Mickey sticker decal covering this door. It would be the last room that we spent time in, and I still remember looking at the nurse and mentioning it to her, and she said, this is the first time that anyone has stayed in this room since that sticker's been put up.
Wow.
And I paused, and I had this feeling and this discussion with my wife, Tammy. The moment Maddie passed, we said that feeling of purpose and our ability to sort of smile at that thought, Maddie's story doesn't end today. And our commitment, just as we committed to keep Maddie as Maddie, that even while she won't be here physically, we are going to ensure that her life is remembered as an inspiration and not as a tragedy. And that when people speak Maddie's name, that they smile, that while childhood cancer is sort of this taboo subject that holds a lot of our parents' sort of deepest, darkest fears, that the thing that happens to other people that never happens to us, that was not going to be a point of darkness, that we were going to celebrate her and everything that she brought to this journey, with the hope of making that journey a little lighter for others and making it a little more inspirational for those on the outside who never, and God willing, never will need to sort of get a look in. And so that really ended up taking form in two really special ways that followed after Maddie's passing. The first of which happened in September, so 8 months after Maddie passed. We published a book in Maddie's honor called Maddie's Miracles. And it is in every which way not a story of cancer. It is not a depressing story. It is not a book to bring you down. It is not the one that you don't want to turn the cover on. It is, its subtitle says a lot. The subtitle is a book of life. And I think in every which way, that is what Maddie's story is. It is a firsthand look into how do we endure the trauma of our life and the hardships and the challenges. And for Maddie and for our family and the lesson and blessing that she gifted us with that we carry each and every day of our lives, is to take those moments to stay present and treat them with a healthy dose of inspiration and hope. And to me, that is timeless. It is so much bigger than cancer, to the point where I know that I find myself even now in what we are going through. And I can't help but take moments and sort of dip my toes back into Maddie's story and remind myself of all those beautiful nuggets of gifts that she reminded us of how to handle these moments in life. And so that came in September. We published, self-published on Amazon, with no assistance other than someone who knew how to draw, helped us with the cover, and made a commitment. We donate all the proceeds to cancer charities that we receive. And we spent that month of September, for each and every day of September, we shared a new lesson that Maddie gifted us in a broader campaign, call it, of shining Maddie's light on childhood cancer. And that theme of not only shining light on childhood cancer, but really just shining a light on the hardship of our lives is in many ways what Maddie does day in, day out for us. And that's our way of now carrying her torch forward and provide a little light for others.
And that was the first book, which I read both of your books, and it is an inspirational story. And I think people might be scared that they don't want to, you said it's a taboo subject that people might think, I don't want to go there. I don't even want let my brain to go there, but it's really more about the joy. And I know that I think about my kids in a different way, not like, oh my goodness, I'm afraid they're going to get sick, but more in we have this moment, let's cherish it, which is the gift of Maddie. It's that, how do we cherish and make the most of every minute and lean into the dancing? And gosh, right now, let's just turn up the music and kick it in the kitchen. Who cares, right? And you've made a couple of references to what we're going through in the world right now, and we're in the middle of a shelter-in-place pandemic, the coronavirus. And I've talked to other people on the podcast who have, in the same situation, have talked about, if you go through some really difficult things, it puts everything in perspective. So what we're dealing with right now is one more thing to just, this too shall pass, right? Has living with what you went through with Maddie changed your perspective and mindset, as maybe you're seeing some friends, you're seeing some family maybe struggle with this time sheltered in place? Are you and Pammy, do you have a different outlook on it or not?
Without question. And I think sort of first and foremost, I feel so much pain for others out there right now, because I do think there are, in a good way, and a blessing of our lives is that so many of us get to live trauma-free until those moments come for us. And I feel like in many ways this is a little bit of a national moment of trauma, both in what we're inundated with in the news for those not experiencing it firsthand, and for those families who are touched directly. I say I can't even imagine, but unfortunately I can. And it being April, it being Maddie's diagnosis month, the month that everything about our normal and free lives got immediately rocket blasted into trauma and being within the four walls of a hospital room, not knowing if and when we'd be able to leave. It's extremely overwhelming to think about what everyone is going through. And a blessing that we have to carry us is that we have some of those lessons from Maddie that we're holding tightly as we're inside our walls. Exactly as you put it, Christy, what are we doing? Doing our best not to do what the mind wants to do, which is to think about the what ifs and the what could be and the what might happen. But that we are taking a moment to turn on Alexa with Maddie's little sister, Lily, who is now 3 years old in her own right, and do a little dancing and harness those moments with family and stay present, stay grateful, and do our best to give back and help those that are are in need of our assistance at this moment. If there's an ultimate synergy in all of this, I feel an especially grateful pain of the families that are in the hospital right now, still being treated for cancer. Life, the real world's still going on. And even though we have this additional aspect to real life of the coronavirus, there are families day in and day out who already are living in self-quarantine in those hospitals. And now that quarantine is taken to a whole nother level, to the point where the place where Maddie was treated at Lurie Children's in Chicago, we learned just this past week that they now only allow one parent in the hospital room at any given time. And I think about this being the month that Maddie was diagnosed, and imagine being told you don't know if your child is going to make it another day, and you're told that you can't come in. So our purpose, and Maddie's purpose, is sort of more renewed and stronger than ever with those feelings flowing through us. So that second piece, Christy, that with the first being Maddie's story, that second piece was a month later, we started an organization called Dancing While Cancering. In many ways, a literal and figurative extension of Maddie. And it has one mission, and it's to bring joy to the inpatient hospital experience for kids with cancer. Ironically, with the thought being that in those early moments, when your life and every sense of normalcy is stripped away and all you have is your hospital room, how can we make that room and that time a blessing and a reminder that you still own your space, even if you don't own what is happening to you, that you own your room and that you own the mindset you bring it. And so the gift that we bring patients, and the primary initiative is we created these smile packs. And they're these bright backpacks that all contain stuff to help change the room up. So everything from a wireless speaker to there's cool music, there's musical instruments, and there's room decorations. For the older kids, there's water bottles that can replace the stale paper cups. Like truly an effort of not just the gift of the goodies that are inside, but it is in every single which way the gift of a mindset. And it's that mindset of the choice that we have of in moments of darkness, choosing light and choosing hope over those feelings of despair, and choosing that mindset of dancing while cancering. And that mindset is what we try to help our patients with directly, but I think on a broader level, Maddie is teaching that lesson to all of us, step by step and dance by dance, that we still have that choice through all of our hardships. And it's not to say that the pain is not real and you don't have to experience it. Like, make no mistake about it, Pammy and I did not skip our way through this journey. There were and continue to be moments of sincere, gut-wrenching, unimaginable pain. But sitting right next to that pain is a tremendous feeling of purpose, a tremendous feeling of inspiration, and powered by a tremendous little girl.
It's beautiful. There's so much, so many truths that can be taken away from that. And The Miracles That Follow is the new book, also available on Amazon. And it's tactical, and it really is that step-by-step guide about how you, two grieving parents, set up a nonprofit, clarified the mission. It's the story of that path forward in a tactical way to see this is how they turned that grief into something that could help other people, powered by Maddie and powered by joy and powered by dance. And what has the feedback from both of the books been, and how has that given you a renewed purpose to keep going when the days are hard and the cries are long and it's difficult?
It's really just an honor, is really the best way to put it. It's a privilege and it's an honor, and it's a reminder for us and for other families that endure trauma of any kind, whether it's a child, whether it's a brother, whether it's your sister, your father. Every one of us at some point are going to experience that pain of loss in some way, shape, or form. And that blessing with the Mickey decal in the background of how to carry forward and to remember that life doesn't have to end on death, and that the gift that we have for our loved ones and the ultimate gift that we can provide them is that gift of legacy and the gift of carrying on their name as we move forward. With every bone in my body, while I know deeply the pain that Maddie is not here physically, I feel her every single day. And it is an incredible feeling. And to know that she is touching thousands of people in the pediatric cancer world and abroad is humbling. We're something that maybe I don't think about in my daily life before this happens, and maybe we all don't think about until it comes knocking. We all have an end date. Every single one of us. We don't know when it's going to come. We don't know how it's going to come, but our time will come. And Maddie, sort of front and center, reminded me something that while we might hear it, feeling it and living it is very different, which is that our time is so marked by what we do here and what we leave. When Maddie passed, she didn't leave. In many ways, she's probably going to live hundreds of years beyond the length of time that I live, because her impact continues and her name will continue to be spoken in a way that brings joy and a smile. And what a gift. What a gift, and what something for us all in our small ways or big ways to aspire to, that our time here can be one of purpose.
Beautiful. It's so well said, and I just appreciate your transparency with the good and the bad, because you got to see a glimpse into the joy, some of the best joy and some of the worst pain at the same time, which so many people in their life going through a loss see, and yet some people miss the joy part. And you talk about that joy part, and that to think about as a parent to bring joy to childhood cancer, boy, that's a hard thing to even think about. And yet the beautiful thing about the books is that you share that. And the beautiful thing about the nonprofit is that you pass it on. And I love that about what you're doing. So if people want to support what you're doing or reach out, going to Dancing While Cancering website is the best way. Is that right, Scott?
Yeah, I think there's three amazing ways to sort of learn more about Maddie. I think the first of which is check out dancingwhilecancering.org. That's our organization's website, dancingwhilecancering.org. There's more about Maddie's story, the work that we do, the ways that people can help out and volunteer. For those who love to read, Maddie's story is certainly an inspirational start, and I have no doubt when they are done that they will have a new hero. And I think for a little smile, for something lighter and equally as meaningful, we have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful initiative on Instagram. So our Instagram page is at Dancing While Cancering, and every week we feature a new patient and how that patient battles with joy. And it is a microcosm of the inspiration that our pediatric cancer families carry, because our story is not ours alone. There are thousands of parents and kids enduring this journey together, and so many of them have that ability to take their pain and turn it into smiles for the benefit of others. And both through our foundation work and on our Instagram page, it's our effort to really give people a glimpse into that inspiration. And I have no doubt it will leave smiles and positive feelings and impact for years to come.
Thank you. And we end the last question always of the podcast is, what's a quote from a book or a song that motivated you as you had to flip your script in a way that you didn't want to and didn't sign up for and didn't expect? How did you get through those difficult days?
I think the quote that really sits with me the most today, thinking about this conversation and thinking about Maddie's journey, is a quote from Man's Search for Meaning. And the quote is, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. You know, in the early days of trauma for all of us, we're all asking that question: how? How could this happen? How could this be? How could our life have come to this? How could the world come to this? And if you can make your way to the why, to the purpose that you can carry moving forward, that's where inspiration lies, that's where meaning lies, and it's where the ability to start walking forward is held. And Maddie delivered that why to us the moment that she emerged from her surgery with a little smile on her face and a little crack of some frozen tunes that would follow. We knew our why. And we carried that why from April 21st forward, and we are not stopping anytime soon, and hope that through our efforts that we can help inspire other families and other kids to help find their why.
Thank you for sharing yours. And it's every time I hear your story and talk with you, I want to cry, I want to laugh, and I want to dance. And I'm cheering for you and what you're doing. And to think about Maddie and her story touching so many people, healthy, sick, otherwise, keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. I know you will. And Maddie's why is going to power you until you can't dance anymore. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Christy. Just an absolute privilege.
And when I think about, what Scott said, some of the things that are so powerful is to own your space and to own your mindset and to choose. And in any circumstance, there's a choice. And it doesn't mean that it isn't appropriate to grieve or to be angry, but there's always a choice. And every time I talk with Scott, it just puts life in perspective. If he and Pammy can turn something so devastating into something that can bring people joy, any mindset shift is possible. My hope is that Scott's Flip Your Script story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Script, hosted by Christy Peel and produced by Media Minefield. If you like our message, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also check out flipyourscriptpodcast.com for pictures, resources mentioned in the show, and information about our other great episodes.